I've been expeditioning since, crikey, 30 years ago now, and that's taught me an immense amount about this world, but also an immense amount about me and about my life and about how I've learned to live and survive. And as Will said in the opening, I've had a few disasters, but I think my childhood expeditions and childhood experiences have taught me so much about how to not just survive in those times, but to thrive too. We're still going through a pandemic. We all seem to think we can see the end of it, but we know that it's changing the world that we're in. And I'm absolutely convinced that being in an expedition environment, an outdoor environment, and learning in that environment can teach us so much about what we've been through in the last year, but also how to get through what we've been through in the last year. You see, to me, education is wonderful. You know, we teach young people, we send them to schools and colleges and such, and we can teach them all the subjects that we like. But what we can't teach them is about themselves and how the outdoors can. Let me try and sometimes somehow explain that. There's some kind of subconscious education, as I call it, where we learn sometimes without realizing that we're learning. And we have places to try where we can fail, and we often do, but again, that gives us the ability to learn. I've been born and bred in Derbyshire, and I've been here over 50 years. And as a child, it was a very different world to what we see now. The outdoors was somewhere that was just a cheap place to go. My parents didn't have a lot of money, and so to go outdoors was somewhere where, well, it's free, let's go and do it. We perhaps didn't look at the benefits of education, of health, fresh air, but we did look at the fact that we could run around in the fields and have a thoroughly good time. And I grew up in that outdoor environment. I also grew up in farming and spent many, many years getting up at silly o'clock working with animals day and night, and I absolutely loved it. But it was my secondary education and my outdoor experiences that started to mold me into who I became and am now. And that was because my secondary school did, as we called it, OP as part of education. And OP stood for Outdoor Pursuits. It was part of the curriculum. It wasn't after school. One morning a week or one afternoon a week, you did OP. And there was no ifs and buts. There was no I don't want tos, and it really was next Thursday or whenever it was, come in an old pair of jeans, an old jumper, some old shoes, you're going potholing, or you're going canoeing, or rock climbing, or scrambling, or sailing, and everybody in the school took part. And for me, it was a fantastic leveler because I wasn't particularly athletic at school. I wasn't particularly strong in lots of things at school, but I discovered sailing at Outdoor Pursuits, and I would never have said that. And now as a mountaineer, you know, what sailing got to do with it? It was just what I enjoyed. And we went out to a local reservoir with, funny enough, the woodwork teacher at the time, and we had some basic training, and we went out on these little dinghies, 3 of us at a time, on a local reservoir. And, you know, an hour in, there you go, there's your crew, there's your dinghy, off you go. Now, bear in mind, we were teenagers at the time, so we all want to be as fast as we can. We want to cut corners, we want to go revving all over the place, of course we do. But then this is where things start to go wrong, and this is where you start to learn. Because you'd go, being from Derbyshire, tazzing across the reservoir, and you'd try and do a corner, you'd completely muck it up, and you'd put the boat on its side. And we're all in the water. Now, there was no immersion suits in those days. There's no big waterproof gear. We did have life jackets. I mean, you know, we had at least something. But we'd be in this reservoir all year, by the way. This was not just a summer event. Practically hyperventilating from the cold. And the woodwork teacher would come along in the safety boat and look at you. Now, he wouldn't be saying, oh, you know, what a terrible time, please come in the boat and get dry. What he'd be saying is, right, I told you not to do that, you tip the boat on its side and you're all in the water. Now you know how to straighten this boat up, let me talk you through it, and I'm going to tell you how to get the boat righted, get it bailed out, get back in the boat and sail it on. Now some people might think that's a bit cruel, and the fact that you're all really cold and you're in the water, but we're not going to drown, there's somebody there with a safety boat, we're perfectly safe, but this is where we learn. We learn how to rescue ourselves. We learn how to deal with the fact that we're really cold, but if we get out of the water, we'll be better. We'll learn how to develop as a team, because very often we were put in boats just as threes with perhaps people we didn't know very well or perhaps didn't like, but you can still work effectively as a team. And we would right the boat and go on our way, and no doubt the woodwork teacher would go off again and find somebody else who tipped a boat over. And for me at the time, I just saw it as an enjoyment of sailing. When I've looked back over all these years, what I've seen is I was learning. And I was learning what I sometimes call the difference between dirty and clean, dirty learning and clean learning, dirty fitness and clean fitness, dirty pain and clean pain. Now, I don't use the word dirty in an offensive way. What I'm saying is this. I can learn things from behind a desk, and that's great. But if I want to actually learn it, I've got to be in the situation. So you can tell me all you like how to right a boat from behind a desk, but it's a very different thing when you're up to your neck in water. We can do fitness. We can do fitness on a machine in our houses. But you do fitness in the outdoors, and you do fitness where it takes effort to climb something or get through some mud or through some undergrowth, and then you'll start to learn, because you're not just an automaton. And the pain the same, and again, nobody likes feeling pain, but we get to learn. I can't describe to you what nettles feels like when you grasp them until you do it yourself. And these things, these outdoor experiences, completely changed my life. They teach us great resilience. They teach us how to get back from difficult situations, how to be dependent, how to trust with people, how to trust other people, to achieve, to solve problems, to work out that play versus adventure thing, strength. I mean, the list of words just goes on and on. Decision making. It's just so wonderful. And it's a great leveler. For me, expeditioning and working in the outdoors is a great leveler of everything. It doesn't matter what gender, race, background and age you are. You know, I'll be 52 very soon, and if I slip on a cliff, I still fall, and if I get in some water, I still get wet and cold. The outdoors doesn't care who you are. It puts you all in a level playing field where you can learn about yourself and you can learn about your life, and you have the ability to shine. Now, experiences like this are what took me to the mountains. And as was explained earlier, I suffered severe frostbite when I was 30 years old. And to get to that point was all those years of expeditioning and training. I sometimes call it serving your apprenticeship, from those young days with my parents to then to school, to then outdoor centres, to then out on the mountains, to then, as I did, go to Alaska, where tragically I was frostbitten. Now that's part of mountaineering life. We had a nasty accident and we were very, very fortunate to be rescued by the emergency services. But that rescue just didn't come as in I picked up a phone and I was rescued, because we put massive amounts of effort into getting ourselves off the mountain, and we did have the assistance of the services. And that determination, that effort, that drive, that initiative, so much of it comes from what you learn in your youth and what you learn in the outdoors. Now, to be then a very athletic, adventurous, outgoing person, and to be suddenly told you've got to lie in a bed and do nothing and watch parts of your body die is absolutely alien to you. And it's awful. It's a terrible time, the worst time in my life. But that strength that was built within me, that again, you know, there's no certificate for this, there's no piece of paper, there's nothing written down. This is what you develop. That strength is what kept me going and gave me the determination to want to climb again, to get into the mountains again, and to get back on international expeditions again. It's very often said in very difficult circumstances, and COVID, I think, has been a classic example of this, is that you take out of something what you take in. Let me try and explain that. If you go into a really difficult situation, whether it's in your life, with your family, with the world around you, if you go in highly motivated and prepared, mentally, physically, whatever it is, you will probably come out of that situation so much better and survive and thrive through it. But if you go in poorly motivated and poorly trained, with little initiative or thought, you are going to suffer that through it. And I've seen this with COVID so much, because like my frostbite, this has been over a year now, and my frostbite initial injuries took over a year of dressings, of surgery, going to hospitals, tests, treatments, skin grafting. It seemed as if it was never ending. And yet I came out of frostbite a stronger person. And I also feel I'm coming out of COVID a stronger person, based on those young expedition, outdoor, environmental experiences. Now, something that is vital, however, is the support with these, because when I had frostbite, I had massive family and friend support through the experience, and I still do now. And we're talking over 20 years ago. Something I do see is lots of youngsters desperate to get into the outdoors, wanting to do something, perhaps having a week at an outdoor centre or getting involved with people, but you do need that support and that family friend continuation. And because I had a family that loved the outdoors, but also a school that said, we're doing outdoor pursuits, but you're at this school for 3 years. So when you go rock climbing, that same teacher will take people rock climbing. Now, I know it's a very different world now when it comes to instructors and certification and such, but you could do other things and learn other things. I mean, a classic name that came out of my school was Alison Hargreaves, was a few years above myself and went through that outdoor pursuits and ended up summiting Everest and climbing on K2. It's that continuation, whether it be through Cadet Force, Duke of Edinburgh Award Scheme, scouting, guiding, whatever. We can't just go into an expedition or go into an outdoor experience and stop. And I think that's a vital, vital part of what to me is really important in the outdoors. There's also the benefits, not only mentally, but physically. When I was born, I had terrible catarrh. My mother was really worried about me and my lungs. I used to cough all the time. She used to take me down the doctors. And the doctors said to me, Mrs. Vardy, the greatest thing you can give your son is fresh air, and lots of it. And so from a very early age, I was permanently outdoors. And we had a large garden at home. I would play in that garden and I would develop fitness in both my cardiovascular. So my lungs went from coughing as a child to high altitude by the time I was in my 20s. It allowed me to create physical fitness, being outdoors all the time. You know, we might just say running around on the playground, but the ability to go hill walking with my family and to love it. And when you love something so much, you don't think it's exercise. You don't think it's fitness. And something I've been lucky with all my life, and we grow up in Derbyshire saying a little peck of dirt does you no harm. My immune system's been excellent. And I attribute a lot of that to being outdoors, being in that environment and being exposed to all kinds of awful things. And I do worry with COVID that sometimes we're going a little bit too sterile, but get folks outdoors again. Get them out. Get them out young. Get them out to somewhere where you can see the joy in their faces and the smiling and laughter, because I think that's what people have, particularly over this last year, have been missing. Let them learn by mistakes, but let them learn together and see the adversity that we've had for its adversity, but also its opportunity. I think we have a great opportunity now to get people out and appreciate what is on their doorstep. I know I do a lot of international travel, but there's nothing like your own home. I'm born and bred Derbyshire, as I said earlier, and I have never left Derbyshire. I still live here. I still love my county, and I travel all over the United Kingdom. And I just love meeting the people and seeing the environment. We're very lucky, actually, within the United Kingdom to have a massive, massive change in geology. So we get to see lots of different climates and lots of different styles of hillside and cliff and such, and we can learn buckets from it. I sometimes feel as if we've forgotten what is on our doorstep. What I think we have to do is to reappreciate that again, and also appreciate that through expeditions with the young, people getting outside, lots and lots of fresh air, because all that coughing I had as a child has gone. And I've been fortunate to have developed excellent fitness that has allowed me to recover. One thing the doctor said to me when we hit the hospital after frostbite is you have a huge advantage because you are physically incredibly fit. And as I said, if you go into some problem, issue, terrible thing in your life strong, you will probably come out of it strong. You will learn to take great and brave decisions by the experiences you have learned when you were younger. And I look back with great joy to my school at school times, going down aerial runways that were built over quarries, potholing in Derbyshire and coming out covered in head to toe in filth and mud, kayaking, and I just went round in circles. I was terrible in a canoe when I was younger, and going out sailing in a boat and getting wet through and cold. So at the time, you know, sometimes we think it's quite hard work, but we do not sometimes see the benefit it gives us, and yet it does. And that is where we learn. And that is where we learn not only about ourselves, about how we work with other people, and hopefully that is how we develop and build leaders for the future. So go into the outdoors, get on your expeditions, get into that fresh air, rain or shine, just go, enjoy it, and have a thoroughly, thoroughly great time.